Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent clashes that we are witnessing between China and Philippines in the region of what we call as South China Sea. So let us try to understand overall what is or why there is a dispute in the South China Sea region. What is the Chinese claim which is contested by many other smaller countries such as Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, etc. So first of all, let us try to go into the background of this particular topic. So yesterday, the government of Philippines has accused that China is carrying out repeated, aggressive, unprofessional and illegal actions in the South China Sea. This statement has come in the background of a series of clashes that we have witnessed in the recent times, both in the air as well as at sea over the past week. Now, if we talk about the development that is happening in the South China Sea region, so this development again has brought into fore the South China Sea dispute or clashes to the forefront. To understand the statement, this is something that we have to understand. It is not a dispute that has arisen in the recent time. This dispute has been going on for years, and not even years, we can say for many decades. So most of time, basically the Chinese assertiveness or Chinese aggression is relatively lesser. Then that time we do not talk so much about South China Sea, but whenever China is basically become more aggressive in their approach, especially militarily or in the terms of development infrastructure, then obviously this dispute becomes talk of the town. Now, if we talk about the South China Sea dispute, let us try to understand this briefly. So, first of all, we talk about the South China Sea region. It is situated just to the south of Chinese mainland and is bordered by many smaller countries. The major countries being Brunei, China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Taiwan as well as Vietnam. Now, the countries have bickered over territorial controls in the sea for centuries, but in the recent year, tensions have increased to the new height. This has coincided with the China's growth or rise, we can say, as a global power, both economically as well as in the military sense. So, the South China Sea has become today one of the most strategically critical maritime areas, and China eyes its control to assert more power over the region. Now, let us try to understand the location of this sea on the map of the world. Now, this area that we see here is the South China Sea. So, if you look at here, this is the China that is lying to basically the western and northwestern part of the South China Sea. Then here we have the Taiwan, that is the second region. Third country here you have is Philippines. Then further to the south, you have the Brunei, which is controlled by both Indonesia and Malaysia. Then to the west of South China Sea, you have Vietnam. And then again further, you have the China like this. So this is the area that is referred as South China Sea. Here, there is a gulf called as Gulf of Tonkin. Now, this Gulf of Tonkin earlier was also considered by China as its own territory. However, later on they gave the area to the Vietnam, or basically they acceded or accepted the right of Gulf of Tonkin over the Vietnam, and then they have revised their control. So how do their control look like as of now? So if you look at this second map, now on the second map, as you can see, this is again the South China Sea here, and this dotted line that you see running across the South China Sea is basically the line around which or up to which China lays its control. So most of time, this is also referred as China's 9-dash line because it is built up of 9 dashes. So basically this China's 9-dash line coincides with the economic zone or exclusive economic zone as well as even to the territorial sea of many of these countries lying along the South China Sea as per the United Nations Convention on Law of the Seas. So that is why the dispute arises, because China lays control over the territory of the other countries in the ocean. Next, if we try to understand the Chinese claim and when it began. So it was in the year 1947 when in the China, it was the Nationalist Party by the name of Kuomintang or KMT party was ruling before the communists came into power. It issued a map with a so-called 9-dash line. And this line basically, as we have discussed in the map before, encircles the claim of China or the claim of Beijing over the waters and the islands of the South China Sea. And to understand this, we can understand the significance of this line. If this line is accepted, the official line that has been proposed by China is accepted to be its actual territory, as much as 90% of the entire South China Sea will be claimed by China or become a territory of China itself. So the line continued to appear even in the official maps after the Chinese Communist Party CCP came into power in year 1949. So in the past few years, the country has also tried to stop other nations from conducting any military exercises, conducting any economic operations without its consent, saying the sea falls under its exclusive economic zone. Now, this is something that we can understand is a part of wider strategy that China has adopted along its border, whether its assertiveness is in the Aksai Chin region of the territory that is disputed with India, or whether it is a dispute that is in South China Sea, or whether it is a dispute with the Taiwan. The Taiwan also is an area which is continuously seeing aggressive posture from China, both militarily as well as economically. So this is just one of the, we can say, part of the wider strategy China has adopted that coincides with the rising power of China, both economically as militarily, as we have discussed. So that is the overall history if we talk about. Now, if you look at the history of the 9-dash line itself, as I discussed before, it basically demarcates China's territorial claims in the sea on Chinese map. So 9-dash line basically up to year 1953, it was referred as 11-dash line. And then the CCP-led government removed the portion encompassing the Gulf of Tonkin, simplifying the border to 9 dashes. Again, to revise, Gulf of Tonkin is basically this area that you are seeing in the map here that lies between Vietnam and China. So now you can see earlier the line used to pass like this, but now simply this part has been removed and line passes through these area where China has its control. Now China's claim on the waters and islands within the 9-dash line is based on what it says as its historical maritime rights. China claims that these area that are covered under the 9-dash line is historically, culturally linked with China since a long time ago. And the line runs many miles beyond what is allowed under the present treaty on the maritime territorial issues, which China has also signed in year 1960s, 1980s. So if we try to understand this from two major disputes that China has, so China has physically increased the size of islands or created new islands altogether in the sea, basically to exert its control and increase its territory. Not only that, even in some of the islands that lies in the South China Sea, which is a disputed island, whether it is between Malaysia or China, or whether it is between Philippines and China, but it has started constructing ports, military installations, as well as even airstrips, particularly in the Paracel and Spratly Island, where it has 20 and 7 outposts respectively. Both of these islands are disputed with China and Vietnam. Militarization of another island called as Woody Island also has caught an eye of the world, and it has even deployed fighter jets, cruise missiles and radar system on this island. Now, due to this aggressive posturing that is being exhibited by China in the South China Sea, now US also has increased its posturing and to challenge China's assertive territorial claims and also protect its own political as well as the economic interest in this region. United States has not only increased the military activity in the region, but also has increased its naval presence. Not only that, US is also willing and even to some extent has supplied the Chinese, we can say its friendly countries, its friendly, we can say countries that is in South China Sea with weapons and aid who are also the opponents of China. So basically the South China Sea region has a very good potential, basically we can say unfortunately, to become another flashpoint in the global crisis that we are witnessing across the world. So if you look at the importance of South China Sea, why South China Sea is important? So first of all, if you look at in the terms of reserves, mineral resources, so oil and gas, which is the most quoted natural resources across the world, including China, especially since China does not have a large reserve of its own. So as per the estimate by the United States Energy Information Administration, in the South China Sea, total 11 billion barrels of oil and 190 trillion cubic feet of natural gas is deposited. So that is the one of the prized possession that China want to have a control over. Second, the rich fishing ground that this area has, it is believed to be a major source of income for millions of people who are living across the region, and more than half of world's fishing vessels operate in this area alone. So this is also something that is a very, very, very important economic resources. And last but not least, most important crucially, this region is also a very crucial trade route, maritime trade route, and as per the UNCTAD, that is United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, a UN organization, it has estimated that over 21% of global trade, that amounts in the term of value to roughly $3.37 trillion, transited through these waters in 2016, and since then 8 years has passed. So obviously we can understand that the trade volume must have grown by many times. So basically rich in natural resources, rich in fishing ground, and a crucial trade route. Now this is a trifecta that China does not want to go away or slip away from its hand very easily, and that is why it is asserting its control over this region more and more aggressively. So let us try to understand the dispute, that how China is trying to lay claim over the islands that is actually under the international treaties to be part of different countries. So we can take example of Scarborough Shoal. Now if you look at the map of South China Sea, here as you can see, Scarborough Shoal lies very close to the Philippines. This is the islands of the Philippines. So officially it should be part of Philippines. But China says, as we know that whenever it lays claims over any area, first thing it does, it changes its name in the Chinese. That is what it has done in the state of Arunachal Pradesh as well. So here also, keeping up with the tradition, China has named the Scarborough Shoal as a Huangyan Island. And it says that if you look at the history, it cites extensive records of visits, mapping expeditions, and habitations of the Shoal from the time of Song dynasty, a dynasty that used to rule over China somewhere between 960 to 1279 AD. And that time it says that this Scarborough Shoal basically was discovered by the Chinese sailors, and that is why China has right over it. So China said it has also centuries old tide with two other islands that we have discussed, where it also has started developing infrastructure projects. One is the Parcel Islands here, and other is the Spratly. Again, if you look closely, Parcel lies very close to Vietnam, and Spratly Island lies very close to Malaysia, that is Brunei region is there, Philippines as well as Vietnam. So China says that both of these islands were once an integral part of the Chinese nation, but on the other hand, Vietnam says that it does not agree to it, because Vietnam says it disputes the claim, saying that actually, if you look at the history, the medieval history specifically, Vietnam has ruled over both the Paracel and Spratly Island at least since the 17th century. And Vietnam agrees that it is willing to share the documents to prove its validity. So that is why we have a dispute going on between Philippines and China over Scarborough Shoal, and between Vietnam and China over Paracel and the Spratly Island. So a lot of islands are there which are disputed island. The entire sea is disputed, but these three are the most important bigger islands where we are seeing the dispute taking shape. So the question that comes is there any way how the countries have tried to solve the dispute? The answer is resoundingly yes. It was in year 2016, an international tribunal where the matter was referred by Philippines over the dispute on the Scarborough Shoal, and the dispute was when referred to the tribunal, it has ruled largely rejecting the 9-line claim of China. It gave this statement as its final verdict that China had broken international law, the law that we call as United Nations UN Convention on Law of Seas, signed in 1982, by endangering the Philippine ships and damaging the marine environment in the process of construction. So basically it says that the claim over Scarborough Shoal should vested with the Philippines. The problem is the tribunal judgment was binding. There is no enforcement mechanism as such. The tribunal does not have an army, navy, or air force of itself that if some country do not agree to its verdict, it can go and attack the country or force it to abide by the verdict. So due to this, China simply did not agree or abide by this verdict. It boycotted the proceedings and claimed that tribunal has no jurisdiction and that it would ignore any decisions. So even internationally, the verdict was in the favor of Philippines. It did not budge, it did not any way budge China from its actual stated position on the 9-line. So the question comes, is there any scope of dispute resolution in the future? So many experts argue that a quick solution to the dispute is quite impossible, especially after China has refused to abide by the International Tribunal's ruling, which was the last resort for the countries such as Philippines and other smaller countries in that area. That means even if Vietnam takes the matter about the dispute on the Spratly and Paracel Island to the International Tribunal, and even if the verdict was given or is given in the favor of Vietnam, again China can simply ignore the verdict. So some experts, international relations experts argue that ASEAN may be in a good position, better position to have some mechanism through which disputes can be resolved. Now, ASEAN is a member of 10 countries, which are a regional grouping of the Southeast Asia. But the problem is that ASEAN countries themselves are having internal conflicts and disputes over each other, between each other. So, due to this, the group has largely failed to act as a single organization, single body against China. So, therefore, there is a palpable fear that the South China Sea dispute can soon become the next global conflict with grave consequences for the world. And thus, in conclusion, what we can say that both the failure of Chinese leadership as well as the Southeast Asian leaders together to resolve the disputes by diplomatic means could also be undermining the international laws governing maritime disputes and encourage destabilizing arms buildup in the South China Sea region, which again, to revise, is a critical maritime route for connecting Asia. Then we have Americas in the east and even Europe and Middle East in the western part of the region. So that is all for this particular review. I hope you understood overall about what is the genesis of the South China Sea dispute and why China and Philippines are at loggerheads with each other regarding this particular region. Thank you very much.